It feels
Dog's
like
asleep. My wife, she's around. But shut the fuck up, it's time to podcast.
somewhat of the inverse of who let the dogs out. My dog is asleep and my wife is outside. It's time to make podcasts to still feel alive.
The
Hello,
Baja
and thanks
Men
for
at
tuning in.
30.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to At the Table. Tonight, we have our incredible hosts. Spin the wheel. Who's still here? Migraines have struck the nation. Last week, it was me. And this week,
It
who
is
else
me.
is here?
Oh no. Shall we try this again?
No.
No, we're not cowarding out of this. We're fucking doing it.
Unfortunately, CJ has taken ill. So tonight, it is myself and Jess. Say hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go on as we mean to continue. Welcome to Chaos the Podcast.
Oh, man, I've got to change all of our shit now to say Chaos the Podcast.
I mean, I'll get t-shirts made. I can whip that up. And by me, I mean, I'll ask Paul to whip that up.
Thanks, Paul.
What have you been up to this week, Sam?
Well, gosh, this week, since last we recorded, I have played first session 0 of Beyond the Witchlight that someone set up, a player from my home campaign, and went all out, went for like a full party, like made their house a carnival for Beyond the Witchlight. It was
Nice.
incredible. I have been trying to write a Lancer campaign because I was quite angry at the coronation. I was like, gosh, if I had a mech, we could solve this. So I decided to write that. I went to Norwich Diceni, which is like a local wargamey / tabletop convention, and I bought some terrain, which was fun. And we had a Dragonlance cliffhanger in our last Dragonlance game.
Stop it. So similarly, being in said Dragonlance group, I have spent the majority of the last week thinking pretty much exclusively about ways to get out of our predicament. Essentially, we are level 4 characters. We've got 2 clerics.
Mm-hmm.
2 of our party members have been petrified. Mm-hmm. One, I believe, did Alder fail all their death saves?
No.
Okay. So, but has failed 2 death saves, has 1 left then?
Yep.
And Francois, I think, has just failed a death save as well. So we are looking down the barrel of losing potentially 2 friends, 2 party members, and I'm a level off getting greater restoration. We don't have anything on us. We are a day and a half out from nearest city. We're
milestoning XP, so we can't literally just roam to a random place and blitz through the local populace of whatever to XP farm. We can't be
I'm doing this for my friend. No, we can't do that. And
no,
it has because we have formed a friendship super fast and furious on this. What with the sort of 16, 17 sessions in, and are very, very attached to one another. And the idea of losing these 2 characters now is very hard. I can't. Yeah. I've not been able to process the reality in which we live, where these 2 characters are gone. So I have spent the last week pretty much hounding Paul about because Paul knows D&D like the back of his hand and can recite rules offset, and I don't. That's not how I do things. That's not how I've ever done things. So I have been saying could I work it this way? Could I work it that way? And every option I've come up with, 3 a.m. I woke up very drunk, and I basically was like, I think I've got it. And he was like, go back to bed. For fuck's sake, go back to bed. It's been plaguing me, hounding me, to the point where I thought the answer came to me in a dream. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But I think ultimately, at the end of this, my character's big thing is going to be, as a cleric, I'm gonna have to appeal to the gods, and I'm gonna have to pray I roll well, and that's it. And I hate the fact that it hangs in the balance like that.
And especially in a setting like Dragonlance, where
Yeah.
like not like in other like D&D settings, it's kind of like ambiguous, like, are the gods here, like in Greek myth and legend, just like around the corner, but you just can't see them? In Dragonlance, they're like, they went, we pissed them off, they're gone, it's your fault. Like that's the writing on the wall of Dragonlance. Like, they're not interested because we pissed them off.
Yep.
So
I mean, a specific sex pissed him off, but like, I get it, I understand it. I wish that right now they were more amicable, because I'm thinking about it in terms of what our incredible DM Jordan would play it in his head, and how he would look at the situation and go, cool, what's it worth? What are their lives worth? And then having to figure that out. And I think I have something. I'm not going to say it because it will ruin it for you, but we'll see maybe next week on next week's podcast if it plays out. But I don't know if CJ has a plan, if you have a plan. But basically, Francois and Elder are out of commission, and I can't think of a game that we play where it's not Alder and Francois, but I'm fully aware that this could be a meat grinder campaign and that we end up with a bunch of different characters, and that would be really fun. But at the moment, I'm very attached to our group.
I've played campaigns where like a main character dies and everyone's like, oh no, that's unfortunate. Anyway, here's your brother. Like, and they just step in and you're like, oh, that's fine. Or like someone gets swapped in. But for these ones, like Lucy's character who's playing the ranger has been like very light. Like literally their whole bit is, I have no trauma. Like I am tabula rasa. I am a blank slate of which to emote joy upon and experience the world. And James's character as Francois has been the partner of religious trauma that you're playing your character with. And that seeing those like intertwined like snakes on a staff has been like incredible. So to lose either of those is just going to leave like you, the lost and abandoned cleric, me, a fighter who pretty much just said all his stuff last episode, and we'll have CJ as
redacted.
As
redacted, but also redacted.
Redacted.
Our secretive scribe and silver-tongued Sylvanesti elven extravaganza of a character, and we're gonna all three of us just be looking at each other fucking... I don't know how that would play out if we lost both. I haven't prepared myself for a reality where we have lost both, so we will see how all of that plays out. But
I think in my brain, I'm just there like, well, they'll just make the next save, right?
Yeah. There's not a reality at this point where they don't make the next save in my head, and I don't know what will happen to my mental status.
Oh my... Not to mention we've got like an in-person game in like a week and a bit.
And they've all bought the minis.
Yeah.
Oh God.
James bought 2.
Oh God, no. No, okay, no, it would be too tragic. Right. If anything, this has given me as a person more inspiration to make my character do something so insane. But we will see. We will find out. And speaking of character and player meshes and melds and combinations, I have been reading this week. Finally, I've gotten around to it. I got it on like 2 weeks ago, and it's only this week I've gotten around to it. The Die-RPG, and I've been so excited for it, and then I haven't had time, and only this week have I started on it. And so far, the way that they have translated the comic books over into the roleplay version is really interesting, because instead of like your typical, you are immersed in a fantasy world, the comic book series follows characters and players, but mainly how the players affect their characters and breaking that fourth wall, and how trauma experienced in the real world manifests in their characters, how experiences in the real world manifest in their characters.
Okay.
And the role-playing game takes that into account. You are players there's you, the player. So for example, me, Jess, the player, plays someone in game as a player who then also has a character.
Oh, okay. So
it is like,
we're finally doing this. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a 3 layers. So you get sort of the opening session is you finding your party. You guys all coming together to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons or TTRPG of your choosing, and being presented with a set of die. And once you roll the die, it's like Goth Jumanji is the
yes,
like the description that they've used in the book, and all of the characters are transported into the world of die. In the comic book series, the world of die is this 20-faceted world, and on each faceted face is a different setting. So on one side it could be World War II, and on another side it could be ancient Greece, and on another side it's the Roman Empire, and all of that. It could be Bridgerton and My Little Pony. It could be anything that you want.
Oh, that's where I live. Yeah.
It's a great combination. But the master decides sort of what element is where. But it's the players, the background of the players that influences a lot of in-game play, really. Wow. So you get to influence the game. For example, you can receive an additional success or inspiration, as it would sort of translate, by having a flashback to your past as a player, and then moving that forward in there. The characters that they have and the ways that they're set out, they're called paragons. So your paragon is a couple sort of random ones. So your GM would be a master, and the master plays along as well, and has a character and all of that within it. Then you have emotion knights. They draw off of a core key emotion, whether it be anger, grief, happiness, and that, when they feel it in game, wields them. So they have to be reminded of things in like the outer world, like someone passing, or a trauma, or it could be a happy memory, and that's what powers them in game. You have neos that are techno magical elves that run on fair gold, which is provided to them in world, but these are like roguish creatures that are meant to have like a very secretive past. Dictators that are able to twist the hearts and minds of anyone with a word and bind people to them. God binders that are able to trade with the gods and basically sort of get miracles at a cut price and with consequence in the back end. It's a really nice set, like a really clean set of characters, but there's not loads of them. So you've only got maybe I think it's like 5. So it's easier for like newer players to understand, which is nice. So that's sort of the main setting, and then the mechanics, it's all D6s.
Yes, of course, because you're going to be on these different facets, so it's going to be you're going to have to change it. So there's no point in making like a hard base system if you're going to be constantly moving to these. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So roll, but it again is very much based on human probability. So if something would be a success, is effectively anything rolled over a 4, and then your sort of key, I can't remember what they call them, like the core mechanics effectively are still like your strength, your dexterity, your constitution, and then depending on the character you choose, you have a set number of D4 for each one. But in terms of what would be considered a success, if, for example, say like, you lift up a boulder that is 5 times the size of a man, it is based on the human probability that a human could do it. Not anything else, not with any magic applied. It's just within the realm of human possibility. That's the difficulty level.
That makes sense.
Doesn't switch really between characters unless there's a special ability or unless they've been given special dispensation otherwise. So it's still it feels very grounded in reality. And then you are attempting to transpose yourself onto a player, onto a character, and draw it all back up and into yourself. And it's quite interesting the way it's been played out before. But again, I'm a few pages in at this point. I like the mechanics. I like the setting. I like the way it's translated. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Do you think it lends itself to a long form campaign, or like a particularly short, like if you say, oh, we're going to play 6 games of this? What do you think?
This is the really interesting thing. You can win die in any number of ways. The main one is to get out. You will want to get out. Again, it's Jumanji, sort of think Jumanji.
Right,
You've all been
yes,
transported in. You win if you all agree to go home. Or if you all agree to stay. And it is the master's sort of decision on how best to split the party. It is up then to like one person effectively to try and divide the group. So the master will win, of course, by sort of trying to keep everyone there because they've trapped them. But it will depend on how you want it to play out. So I would say it would fit both short and long form, but I could see it depending on how complex people want to create their personas versus their paragons. So their characters versus other way around, their players versus their characters.
Yeah.
They could stay in there forever. It's the nice thing. But I think it really the mechanics lend itself really, really well to a long form game that is heavy on the role play, which I quite love. And yeah, at this point, quite excited.
That is very intriguing. Yeah, keep us posted on how that develops.
Shall do. And the only other thing I've been up to in the last couple of weeks, I'll be able to say it because it will be out tomorrow as we are recording it now. D20 Deathmatch, Vythorn's Return Part 2 with myself and the amazing, immaculate and wonderful B. Dave Walters.
Dave Walters!
A couple of guys! We're just a couple of fucking guys! Playing the sort of super ego and id to Vythorn as the ego itself. It's a very fun little thing that we recorded a couple of weeks ago. Becca Godsley or Caustic Phoenix as DM, absolutely phenomenal. Mudcat as Vythorn, a brilliant player. I highly recommend you go check it out. That is D20 Deathmatch.
How would you describe D20 Deathmatch to those who haven't watched it yet?
So the section that B. Dave and I are is like an aside. Following a champion called Vythorn, who was played by Mudcat in the series. But D20 Deathmatch is you pit 2 players against one another, and they fight to the death with D20s. Effectively, it's just two of your favorite characters, or 2 characters that have been created purely to fight it out in a coliseum. I believe B. Dave is the reigning champion with his previous character, and I cannot remember the name of it. But yeah, I can see why, having played next to him, I can absolutely see how he fucking annihilated a lot of people. But yeah, I highly recommend. It's a very fun series. I would recommend go checking it out. And they're on all of the socials and everything at D20 Deathmatch.
You were also on Questing Time.
Oh yeah, shit! I was on that as well. Yeah. Oh no. Yes, playing yet another super dumb, super stupid character. Because that's my lane. I had one day I will do serious and I will create a character that is meant to break hearts and will follow the light. But that is not today or in the next 10 years, as far as I can see it. I'll create a fucking Aarakocra pigeon dickhead who sounds like Danny Dyer. Yeah, absolutely. Has he got any feet? No. Why would he? Let's go.
The amount of fact finding you and Paul were doing as you were describing your character. Does this bird not have feet? And you're like, no, they don't. And I know fully well that you were like, I hadn't thought about the feet until just now.
You know me so well. It was when we were. It was Dire Daddy coming down the ladder into the sewers, and I remember saying to Paul, like, it'd be really fun if you had a peg leg, think that'd be really nice. But also a call to the fact that pigeon lose their feet quite often because of the amount of infections they get. And then I forgot which one. I forgot which leg he was meant to have as a peg leg. So I was like, it'd be easier if he just has 2 peg legs.
Oh, pigeon.
And I forgot. Oh, thank God for he's a transient character. He just had to exist for one session, and he did that. I liked him a lot. He might return if I let him. But good. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of Danny. Oh God, that was so stupid. That was such a vocal choice that I regret.
I enjoyed the how hard of a Britishism that was. So it was just people were in what's happening? What's Danny? I'm like, no, this is gold. You sit down.
I didn't realise that Ed, in playing Ernie Littlebeak, I didn't realise Ed is actually from the East End. So it was just I really enjoyed walking into that and basically being like, hello Ed, I'm a caricature of you and your character. Fuck you. I didn't meant to do that at all. I felt so fucking stupid.
I'm coming in to where you eat and I'm shitting.
Exactly. I live here now.
What I liked was that you pivoted on the accent. You were like, I'm doing whatever accent. It's okay, it's fine. Because they're looking at you through the camera.
Before we got in as well, because it was meant to be a Cockney geezer, Danny Dyer, sort of hard man. I'd watched so much Danny Dyer, just nonsense that day, trying to pick up on it, you fucking nugget, Method. You darn it, yeah. And I was going with that, and then just beforehand, Paul was like, "It'd be really funny if you did some Cockney rhyming slang." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be great. It'll be up the apples and pears. I know some of it. Yeah, that'd be yeah." The minute that we started recording, my mind just went blank, and I think I pulled something out of my ass that was just the worst thing. It was it made no sense, and I went, and that's enough of that. We'll not be doing that for the rest of the campaign. For fear of not only offending everyone in the East End of London, including the one that is sat opposite, on Zoom with me, but also because I don't think I'll be able to look myself in the eye. I won't be able to look in a mirror and have any self-respect left.
It's that clip from, I think it's I can't remember, it's from Nickelodeon show, where they're like, go on, do it again. It's like, no, I feel like I've made a mistake of some kind.
I felt it immediately.
Yeah, I've definitely done it when I was Charlie TT. I was just making some random accents or some choices, and I'm like, that's not one that will be consistent. No, I don't think anyone's going to be worried about that. No, that's a dead end for that bit. Cool.
Consistency is for cowards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, real RPG is, we fly by the seat of our pants. We change that accent whenever we fucking want. We make the rules.
We know that humans are messy and complicated and contradictory, and so why wouldn't these highly curated characters be that? Apart from the fact that we wrote 300 words of backstory.
Why would they?
And they were a real big tough guy in the backstory, and now that they're just a geese. They're just a little geezer doing their own thing. Just a lad.
I felt so wonderfully B-Dave came in to that session as Baker, the Goliath barbarian, for a heist. Keys to the Golden Vault is what Questing Time is playing at the moment, and I thought, Danny Dyer, Cockney geezer, rogue, Jason Statham of it, Jane Gatt, lovely jubbly. And Baker comes in, and I'm like, this is perfect. He's a muppet of a character. He's huge. He'll be so hard to miss. This is what we want in a heist. This is the character that has so many issues. This is the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of heists. Just so big and meaty in front of you. And I'm trying to figure out how to do this heist beforehand. Just I'm not entirely sure anybody even get. And the minute that Dave just started ripping into the side of a building, I was like, this ain't a heist anymore. We've lost it. This is cause chaos and see what happens at the end. I could see the control like slipping from Paul. It was like I've seen him like creating this entire masterpiece of a heistable building and setup and all sorts for like a week in the lead up, and then I've just gone and looked at it and realized that we're just going to destroy a building that looks like a cake and be happy about it. Winner.
As is mentioned in annals of history past, any plan always fails when it meets B. Dave Walters. That's what Napoleon said. That's what Caesar said. No plan survives contact with B. Dave Walters.
B. Dave Walters, like, plans hinge on that man. And let's be fair, rightfully so.
Around him. If you have a plan and it hasn't incorporated B. Dave, you've made a bad plan.
You've made an error. A grave error. So yeah, that's what I've been fucking around doing this week. This last month. Just having a nice time with everything. I've also been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering as well, because I found a deck that I really like, and that doesn't really tie into anything, but highly recommend if anyone can get their hands on them, the Warhammer 40k Necron deck commander. It is fucking brilliant. I love it.
Friend of the show, Chris, who does Roll Plus Pod, he taught me how to play Magic. So it's just me and Becky just staring at these Magic cards whilst he's like explaining the principles, and just me and Becky looking up at him like a puppy who's just been taught like general relativity. And we were just like, huh? And then I'm like, this one's got a pretty picture. This one. He's like, okay, that's not what you can do, but that's fine.
Learning
One
Magic.
day I'll understand it.
Once you get it, it's really fun. But those initial matches that you're having where you're trying to figure out how the decks work and the engines build, like, it's taken me fucking months. This is the first deck where I've gone, I love it. I will never play anything else. I get it now. Like, everything sort of comes together Matrix style. Like, I see the world now. It's the code. It's the code.
I know MTG.
I know. This is Red Pill and no, Blue. Wait, Red Pill NTG.
Pill. It's pill energy.
We're pill
colorblind
energy
on this podcast. We don't know. We just swiped some pills. Good luck.
Certainly explain a lot of the nonsense that comes out my face. Once you get the hang of all like the terminology, there's still terminology that I don't understand, and I'll have to be like, Paul, what does that mean? Or just Google it in most cases. But they just it works eventually, and there is a satisfaction in being able to look through a deck and then go, I know how this works. I know how I can work this to my advantage. I know what I need to start off with. I know what a mulligan is, and like nonsense like that, and then eventually learning how to play it is really good fun. It's really, 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 really good fun. So when we go away, we're going to play some Magic, and I think when we will play it together as pals, I think it will be fun. But now that I understand how to play Magic, I want to get more people to play Magic so that I can play Magic with them, because I'm selfish.
Becky and I will turn up with our football Merlin stickers, our Pokemon cards, just shove them on the table like, are these good? Are these good?
I'm sure we can make a version. We can make some cards.
Yes. The at the table MTG deck coming, and all retailers.
I want to play like a podcast version of like Magic the Gathering on Arena. I think that would just. Oh god, I'm thinking about.
You want the TTRPG sphere, but as MTG decks.
I don't reckon we're too far off that. There's a company called Secret Lair that do special versions of cards. So they did, like, for example, the Dungeons and Dragons movie characters. We've got
I saw those.
And so what's to say in like a couple of let's be fair, seeing the trajectory we're on, weeks, we won't see like Critical Role kids on there or something like that. Who knows? Who knows what the kids will buy these days?
Kids will buy anything these days.
Lord of the Rings, both Commander
yes.
and base sets are coming out soon, and boosters as well. I think it's June is the release for those. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't buying a lot of them or had a lot of them on pre-order, because the character art for it alone is worth the prices that they are currently going for. I'm aware of how fucking expensive they are. My bank account is so aware.
Stay tuned for this space where Jess becomes a MTG TikToker going, look at the cards, look at everything.
Oh, I wish. Is that a thing? Is MTG on TikTok?
It's got,
it must be.
I know. It's just kind of adjacent to my spheres of animals, people who are excited about Zelda and TTRPGs. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's a good sort of Venn diagram of where you sit in internet space, I think, is to see what recommendations come up on your TikTok.
Make a TikTok account where you're like, look at these fucking Necrons, man.
That would require having a TikTok account. I don't know if I have. I'm not like
you can't cut that many slithers off your soul. Right. I know there's not much.
I know this is a podcast, right? I'm aware this is a podcast. I'm doing something very visually. I'm going to describe it as best as I can for everyone who has managed to listen to all my bullshit so far. Right. I'm wearing flare trousers, right? Mm-hmm. I'm wearing flare trousers. I haven't worn flare trousers since I was 13, because at 13, it was really cool to wear skinny jeans. And after that, all I wore was skinny jeans. And now, thanks to TikTok, I have a middle part and fucking flare trousers. And I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if I'm myself or if I also don't know if it's weird for a 30-year-old woman to be following TikTok trends. I don't know where the line is drawn.
Is that weird now?
I don't know, but sometimes I'm just like, am I doing this to fit in with the kids, or is it because I actually have a personality where I think this is okay? Honestly, I think they may be onto something with the flare trousers. I enjoy that. I enjoy the stretchiness at the bottom. I like it a lot, but also in all my adult life, I've not gone, oh yeah, I'll wear anything other than skinny jeans. And now I'm just like, what is reality? TikTok can get fucked. I just feel like my world is out of my hands at the moment. So yeah, no, fuck it. Why not? Let's do an MTG TikTok account. And I'll cry over it there, I guess.
Okay, but you have to tell us if you get the One Ring card, which is like, I know.
The hunt is on. The hunt is already on. I've seen so many people on Twitter just like the amount of money we're about to sink into finding the One Ring.
Yeah, the unironic, like, people are going for it because it is the only one. I'm like, you did all read the book, right? Like, we do know that this is the thing, right?
This is essentially what this is what Tolkien was.
J.K. Tolkien.
Yep. No, stop. No. In my head, I was like, JTT Tolkien? Because my fucking stupid
it's just like
brain.
all of the initialed fantasy authors just combined. And then C.S. Lewis is down in the corner like, remember me? No, we don't. Go away.
Leave. No, I am fully aware that this is what Tolkien was basically advising against, and now that we're here and it's printed on pieces of cardboard, we're all like, nah, fuck it, like, rules out the window, let's go.
Nah, don't worry. He said in the foreword of his book, like, none of this is allegory, get fucked, it's about dwarves. Right, carry on.
Has it always been dwarves? Always has been. Always. And I love
more
that.
Visual reference memes for you to enjoy at home, listener. I'll describe it to you in the added dialogue. But for now, let's move on to our discussion topic.
Yes.
You posited in the group chat quite an interesting thing, because we were like, hey, what would we like to talk about next? I've got a few things in queue, but usually if I just suggest things, it tends to be, what's cool about Lancer? The cool thing about Lancer is that Lancer's very cool. So we thought we'd take a little break from that. And Jess said, what did you say in the chat? What's the vibe?
I I have noticed as because, well, if you look at us creating a podcast on TTRPG in the industry, and if you look at every other podcast that has sprung up over the last couple of years regarding a TTRPG or the industry, or if you look at any YouTube channel or TikTok account or Twitter or Instagram or anything, you'll notice that TTRPGs are everywhere. The industry's never been bigger. The movie for the biggest franchise and branch of TTRPGs has just come out. Are we at the point where the bubble bursts now? Because the market is so heavily saturated with as many TTRPGs as you can fling a stick at. Don't think that's a turn of phrase, but there we go. You can.
It is now.
You can't look anywhere at the moment without TTRPGs being on shelves, being in people's homes. Like, people know the names of not just Dungeons and Dragons, but like Pathfinder and a bunch of others as well. It isn't stopping at this point. TTRPGs have literally never been bigger. My concern is, when do they stop being that big, and when do we start to see the decline again, if ever? I have a feeling it could go one of two ways, but I wanted to know what you guys thought about stuff, because it's I don't know, it's been playing on my mind a bit.
I think you're definitely right, and we'll have to get like a post-session notes from CJ from their perspective as a writer within this scene and doing a lot of actual plays as well. I think you're right. So on my hard drives or assigned to my itch account, like, I have enough RPGs. If I played them just as base RPGs with all the adventures that are in them, for foreseeably, if I'm reasonable about it, for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I've got enough literature that I don't need to pick up another book, source book, adventure, and I could play them only up until what's written in there, for realistically whatever sessions I need for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Mainly because, like, I signed up to a bundle, but like, as I said, I've got Lancer, we've got a load of D&D stuff, I've got Starfinder books behind me, I've got Inspire Isles, as you say, like, and they're not like, and I know this is going to sound reductive, but I think it would be interesting, you were saying before we started recording, that it's interesting to compare this to how we're consuming video games and movies.
Yes.
So obviously with video games, you can, like, even like the big ones, you're pretty much done with a video game after about 100 hours.
Yeah.
But like TTRPGs, you could just keep playing them, or because of the time structure, you can only really play them in maybe up to 4 to 5 hour sections.
Yeah.
And you need a whole group to facilitate that. Not obviously for the solo RPGs, but even those have got a limit. So it's not a bad comparison to compare them to how the video game market's gone. And notoriously, the video game market is, well, it's reaching some real critical points here.
It is. But the biggest thing with it is that it's continuing to grow. It has continued to grow since, I think the latest market data said something like it's a $200 billion industry. And in 2017, it was a $90 billion industry. It's only going to keep growing until the demand stops. And I think because we've raised generations on video games now, and there is there's competitions, esports coming into the foray, like being big events now more than ever. I don't think it's going to show any signs of slowing down in the near future. We are reliant on this technology for so much of our entertainment. TTRPGs are very different in that, yes, things like Critical Role and Netflix's Stranger Things has popularized them, but there is also a limit with TTRPGs in that you need multiple people to play unless you're a solo, but those aren't as popular. There are limitations with everyone else's time, and also, is that love of TTRPGs going to be passed on to the next generation, which of course is what Hasbro is attempting to instill at the moment with the movie and with toys and with that entire merch line that is attempting to get a younger generation in to continue to feed into the TTRPG sphere. I wonder if at some point we are going to reach, each of us, like, I don't know how much everyone else spends on TTRPGs in any given year, but with the amount of new businesses spawning, every week there is a new TTRPG being funded on Kickstarter. There is a new TTRPG that someone's just created and has just like put out into the world to see what happens. Something new on the DMs Guild, one shots, full campaigns, whatever it may be. Are we in a position sort of financially as an audience to continue funding it in the way that we have been?
Yeah.
Or like, when does that stop? And also because like a game you store on a console and generally like, or it's quite small and compact to store. These TTRPGs books, we only have so many shelves. Like, if I could, I would fill all of our shelves with them. But we're reaching a point now where we're having to make decisions and maybe be a little bit more economical with the choices that we make of the TTRPGs that are out there. Like, I would love to sponsor all of the new games and ideas and creators that are coming out now.
Yeah.
I don't have the funds to be able to do so, nor the space with some of the stuff. And don't get me wrong, PDFs are great. PDFs don't feel the same to me.
No.
That's a choice.
I messaged that out on Twitter because obviously there's, as you say, there's like, I can't remember, I think it's like Gunbat Batwar or something. That's like the martial arts one that looks really sick. Yeah. There's Hellraise. Yeah. There's like so many. I'm at a saturation point where I can't play more games. I'm phasing out D&D 5th edition because like, I think for, because Wizards have really poor management, have just really lost a lot of social credibility within the space. But also I've played that TTRPG for about the whole life of 5th edition. I'm ready to do some more stuff. So there are other stuff going out there, but I'm at a saturation point of what would I do? How many groups could I bring that to that would also be like, oh, I want to play that specifically and not I want to play a generalist fantasy systems. And obviously all the generalist systems like GURPS, Travelers, pretty generalist, obviously all the Powered by the Apocalypse versions. Like, how many people can I get excited about that particular thing to play a whole game with? And obviously like that might mean that I just scale down my group, so I'm just playing with like 2 or 3 people, but you're right. And then also, as you're saying, a lot of the games that are coming up on itch and have been crowdfunded for itch and don't assume to have a physical release because the finances are just way off. Like a lot of the physical release obviously have a lot of problems with if there's a problem with the print. Can a small production company survive that kind of issue?
Yeah.
And I was saying, like, I've got a load of Lancer stuff. It exists in PDFs, and all the game files that I need exist as small little LCP files.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that tag means, but they're small little nuggets of information that I feed into their CompCon, which is their D&D Beyond, which strikes me as weird that like I'll go on. That's a different round for a different day, and maybe a little bit of discussion. But that's intangible, and if itch.io goes down, and if my hard drive fails, I've lost Lancer. And I know Massive Press want to do a re-release of the core rulebook so it can be wider distributed. But apart from that, I might just lose that game and hundreds of other games like that.
Yeah, it's a worry, I think. More than anything, like it's because it's such a new booming industry. The industry itself has sort of been around since the 70s, but this boom in it, this last couple of months have been so critical to its development. It's almost outstripped itself in terms of what it can achieve, and so people are finding themselves inundated with choice, not a lot of ability to play them. Like, it's like having a massive game backlog and not playing all of it. Like, I know a lot of people will do, but like the games that you tend to buy and have in the backlog in your library that you haven't played yet are £4 or up to £10 stuff that you've bought in the sale. That doesn't take up space and you can easily forget about, as opposed to £30 to £80 worth of game system that will sit on the shelf and that's an Elden Ring game. That's a new release AAA game that on day of release. That's how expensive these things are. And
go on, finish your point.
No, it's more so beyond the sort of financial element of it. it's how many more creativity is boundless. So many people have so many great ideas and so many cool mechanics and so many things that you want to invest in, but how many more can the industry support as it is? Because it costs so much to produce these things, and if people are all still drawn towards the one big main Dungeons and Dragons 5th ed, how many more of these smaller companies can pop up with their own core mechanics, and for people to be able to afford those as well. Sort of, and then it's so much when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think the space is fundamentally going to change. I think we will. I think having long-running campaigns is going to be not necessarily a bygone era staple, but definitely a dwindling thing. I can definitely see people picking up cheaper games that are like, that are on itch.io that are up to £30 for a digital copy, playing those for about 5 to 10 sessions, then moving on to another thing and moving on to another thing. And as you said, and going back to the financials, as you said, a lot of these are Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah.
There's no big publisher out there that is going around publishing these TTRPGs.
No.
I think that would be a really smart idea to do. But fundamentally, it works different to books. It works differently to game. Like, video game publishers buy up these small projects or do them in-house and then publish them there. Then they get a part of the profits. Whereas now it's all bottom up, which is, a lot more democratic. But it does mean that some of the smaller creators who just don't have the time and effort, they're a few people, don't have time to do a lot of social media stuff, but have a really well-written game that's really well polished and has been really well done under the ethics that have kind of come up through the community.
Yeah.
And it just dies by the wayside. Or you have a game that does quite well on Kickstarter, people get that Kickstarter reward, but then no one plays it, so no one plays any updates or sequels. It's so interesting and so weird.
And it's a little bit scary because if you think about some of, like, I'm raging and going off on Die the RPG at the moment. I think I cannot wait to play it. Simultaneously, at the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to play it. I'm going to be able to read this book and really enjoy the system for what it is, don't get me wrong. And Kieran and Stephanie and Grant will have made their money for sure. Rowan Rook and Deckard will be more than happy with all of the money that I have paid them for this glorious book in all of its amazing quality. But is it enough for it to just sit on a shelf when the entirety of its play is in the imagination and it's not being played? I don't know. The more source material that we have, with the inability to play it, or with the form that it's currently in, is a little scary and a little overwhelming when you think about it. I would love nothing more than to play all of the games on our shelf. And as I've said in previous episodes before, I'm very much a person who, if they buy a book for a system, they're going to play it. And by God, they're going to we're going to get right into it and play it all the way through. It's going to be great. That's how I play games, because I'm weird. maybe
but no, that's perfectly logical from like a payment perspective. You're like, I'm investing this money, I expect to play this product. It's not an intellectual exercise, which for a lot of the books behind me is. I have a lot more adventures than I have source books of 5th edition that we've never touched, and for me, I've been reading through those campaigns, seeing what works well in my head or what I like, and then transplanting that. And sure, that's a way to kind of grandfather in those ideas, but it's not playing the thing. It would be like if I read Herbert. God, I've forgotten who wrote Dune.
Herbert, man, that guy.
Herbert Bloke.
Oh, fuck.
I know. Fuck it.
No, I need to know. Hang on. No.
Quickly, who can Google first?
No, continue with the. No, not now. Oh God, fuck God! None of my technology wants to work on me today.
So yeah, if
Frank
Herbert. Frank Herbert, I got the wrong bit. Fuck. Thanks, Frank. So if I read Frank Herbert's Dune and then just thought about it and then were like, I might just talk about it, but no one else has a reference point. Nobody else has read it. Nobody understands these ideas. And as you say, you kind of want to play these games because you really enjoy how they're written, or you understand the ethics that are brought up here, or the themes, and you're like, I want to be, a dishonored knight fighting in a cruel, unjust world in order to do rightly. I want to be a mech pilot who's firing big lasers because it's cool. But if you don't do that, is it worth buying the product? As I said, I've got a lot of stuff upstairs, and I keep buying Lancer modules, and I will just because I love them. But am I ever going to play those adventures and experience them in a way that's in my head? And if I overread them, and this has happened to me twice, when it comes to the table to play them, because I've read them over and over and over again, they've become somewhat canonized for me. As soon as there's any divergence from the path, part of me goes, well, the players haven't invested in as much as I have. We're doing it wrong.
No.
Exactly. Bad take, wrong take. It's the wrong thing to think.
Yeah.
Because because the time and money you've invested. And also a lot of people I've said on also 3 times now. That a lot of the people who are buying the TTRPGs aren't necessarily just players. They tend to be people who run the games. So we've got a market that's heavily weighted to people who are intending to run these games.
Yeah.
And then we've got all these players who don't necessarily need to pick up these because, it's unfair to just put that responsibility on them.
Yeah.
But the other way, it does mean that there's a huge burden on people who want to run the games, and sometimes it's not worth the cost.
Sometimes, and they're such a nice thing to have. They are such a nice thing to have, and I'm not debating that in any way. But with the way that the market is moving, and with the way that we are consuming media and entertainment moving, which is increasingly online, and through things like social media and whatnot, word of mouth is more important than it ever has been, because that's how, through social media, we learn about stuff. Someone recommending stuff on their social media is how you inevitably learn about the next big product that's happening. As an example, none of you, I highly doubt that anybody listening to this in the UK knew that Critical Role was a thing from just, word of mouth, like their friend, like from down the road, just saying like, oh, have you checked out Critical Role? Like you probably saw a snippet or something on social media and then went, oh, what's that? And then went into it, right? So here's the thing. If Critical Role weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons, would Dungeons and Dragons be as big as it is now? Probably not, because Critical Role has been an absolutely incremental launch point for Dungeons and Dragons to become as popular as it has been right now. It's people playing the game.
Exactly.
It's people playing the game and then sharing their experiences of it online, and then people going, oh, actually, that looks like fun. I can see how it works now. I can see how it plays, because that works, that translates for a bunch of different media outlets, right? So if people aren't playing the game, and if people aren't putting cameras in front of it in this day and age, and they aren't showing audiences what it looks like to play that game, to have that experience, to create those characters and all of those connections, and show you how the world works, are you going to play that game? Are you going to buy that game? Are you going to invest in that game? What's the likelihood? And the more TTRPGs pop up, and what you would hope would happen is that more streaming sites pop up with a greater audience to them, and it spreads quite naturally that way and reaches different areas all over the world. It's not a reliable form, no. And I don't know if the creation of new streaming channels, new social media channels, critiquing and playing new TTRPGs is enough to support the number of TTRPGs that we're seeing come out at the moment. And I think it's that that imbalance that will maybe see the TTRPG bubble burst, is my thought and thinking. But again, I have been known to be wrong about so many things, and so I'd be really happy to be wrong about this. I would love to see it go into the stratosphere.
So I'm going to go for a positive spin.
Ooh.
Okay, so there's a time and a place for us to like discuss how the actual play scene is and within that politics. I think we're going to set that aside for now.
Okay.
And we're going to presume that is a net good for the industry at the moment.
Yeah.
As you say, it's kind of like exposing audiences to different TTRPGs, and I would say that critiquing like a lot, 2/3 of the RPGs that I've got are from Dicebreaker articles or from people who've read those Dicebreaker articles and read them to me. Literally, no one's talked to me about Lancer. I read a Dicebreaker article that said, "Here's a cool RPG that no one's talking about."
No way.
It said the word modern lasers, and I'm like, I'm in, baby. So thank you very much. I will reference who it is in the show notes. But I think, so I found, so there's a Twitter thread. I don't know what it's at now, and I haven't checked it, but I'm going to pop it in the show notes. There's a guy I'm following called Logan, the GM, and he's asking, how can we improve the space? And it's principally talking about the actual play scene. But I think people are talking larger in broader sense. One person was talking about itch.io at the moment is, effectively it's not a publishing house, but like a stock house for all your digital online. We need that for physical print games.
Okay.
So I think there is a argument for saying itch, and I know it's the antithesis of what they're doing, but you could definitely see an arm of them going, okay, we publish, I don't know, 10 RPGs a year from a random select that are high performing that haven't been published yet. Mm-hmm. And you could do something like that. I could definitely see, book publishers, novellas, novels, and Scram, they are screaming out for new content to do and to publish through.
Yeah.
And this is a very open space which is continually expanding, not infinitely, because that's not how markets or things actually grow, but there's a large enough market that if, let's say, and I know you're able to buy some TTRPGs at like Waterstones, but if you were able to see like some more indie titles there, like I'd pick up a little zine that was like a new TTRPG, like some of the like yeah, just there's so many out there that if it was just a little zine that was like £5 or under and they were just mass printed, then you could pick that up. I think also we're going to see more unions in the space. Obviously, the main union that people reference when we're in this space is obviously the Paizo union. Mm. And that was obviously born out of the fact that there was poor management within Paizo and underrepresentation and unionization efforts have been happening for a while, and then I believe someone got fired and that left the community space in some bad taste, and then Paizo recognized that union and they have been working together to make better working conditions for writers. As we're speaking now, there's a writer's strike in America for like screenwriters, but I think this industry that we're in, that we're pouring a lot of money in, needs to have better recognition for each individual creator at every single stage, whilst also making sure that people who want to engage with the spaces, like I hate the word consumer, but customers are able to do so. I think there's going to be bigger unions. I think there's going to be some publishing houses coming into the place, and I think, as you say, we've had a D&D movie. There's so many other TTRPGs out there. Yeah. I think we've had a lot of like YouTube online series of various different RPGs, or kind of like RPG-less and more talking about something closer to like Die RPG, where it's talking about the players and that mechanic. And I think Die RPG is going to be the real antithesis. It's going to be the turning point of what a lot of stuff's happening. Because when you tend to engage with a lot of spaces where an industry tilts or shifts, both movies and video games have always had the anti-hero moment, where anti-heroes become the zeitgeist of a particular genre. And at that point, the industry rotates about 45 degrees and it becomes very different. Yeah. I think with games that are Die RPG, where they're talking about the Paragon and the Paragon
and Persona.
Thank you, Paragon and Persona. Talking about those and acknowledging the player's agency as a character is going to make people think a lot more about how they can engage with the space. I feel positively that it can go this way, and a lot of people in the TTRPG space obviously want this to continue and to make sure that it goes forward sustainably. So those are my pie in the sky thoughts.
It won't come without its problems, I think. As with any industry that grows, it will come. And as you've said, we're seeing with unions basically popping up now going, cool, the industry has been born off of the backs of those who have not been paid well, who have not been treated well in the industry historically for God knows how many years. But now that it's big, you can afford to do that. We know that because we're getting the quarterly reports, and boy, are you guys making profit. Let's have some of that back. So it's good to see the industry moving in that direction. It's sad to see unions like that popping up, or having to as a point of necessity. But what it also sort of proves is that, like, with things as successful as Kickstarter, and proving to be as fundamental to new companies sprouting up in the space as Kickstarter, where it's proof of concept. You pay first, you get the product when that mark is met. And the fact that you have to trust so much in the person producing it, that two-way street of, here is my money, produce me the thing that you have promised, and whether or not that actually comes through. Again, it works for video games, it works for TTRPGs. It is incremental in ensuring that you do get TTRPGs that people want.
Yeah.
Again, it's that payment process. If that was on a wider scale, if it could work on a wider scale, it would be fantastic. But it doesn't at this stage, and that breaks me.
The thing that's useful at this point is that the TTRPG sphere, as for the most part, and there are obvious exceptions, works opposite to movies and video games, where there are big financial bodies that are looking for very non-risky choices for you to make all of the money that was ever made incrementally. And at the moment, it's bottom up. There are, it's all the people who are bringing their individual wallets to these schemes, and it is going up. Yep. So there is kind of like a removal, and it allows for riskier projects. I don't think Brindlewood Bay would have survived if it was, the other way round, and loads of people and I forget, there's a wonderful TTRPG about an old lady looking after a B&B that's meant to be astounding. It's astounding, and also like really fundamental. It's really makes you look hard at yourself.
Oh my god! Okay,
it's meant to be incredible. So we wouldn't get these. I mean, you'd get the occasional one, but large financial institutions don't like risk. They like big returns on their rewards, and people can be upset with a thing if it's produced poorly, but it's been produced. It's out there. So I think we need to maintain that, to make sure. And we don't want monopsonies. We don't want distribution points that are so large that they choke out the competition. And itch is that to a point. However, it seems to be fairly lax, and from what I can understand, it seems to be pretty creator and content friendly, and allowing people to do things like community games, where if so many games are bought, they can give some out to the community. So yeah, I'd like to maintain those, but you're right, we do need to have a lot of these, a lot more avenues and choices for people.
It will depend on the innovation that people come forward with, and the way that it's not only that the games change in terms of how they present something different from Mud and Lasers, or from dragons and princesses and castles, and it won't depend necessarily on what you can imagine, because what you can imagine is boundless. It'll be how you imagine it. It's the next stage of maybe getting a bit meta. It's the next stage of figuring out how to differentiate yourself from the rest of the thousands of smaller creators now that exist, and how to not only stand out, but also to push the industry forward as well. Because let's be fair, who's going to be the next massive sort of AAA version of a TTRPG at the moment? It's Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, are the Call of Duty and the World of Warcraft of this sort of Microsoft Activision goddamn combination. So what comes next? What is the next large TTRPG to move up into that space, to burst the bubble, to move it forward? Or does it stagnate? Will the industry... I don't think our communities will let it stagnate. I don't think we'll run out of ideas or ways in which to circumvent things. I think we will continue to grow at this point. But there's got to come a point where if innovation doesn't support that creative endeavor, the effort put in is not going to equal the thing put out. And people are going to get tired of the way things are done. And you can't form a union in a smaller industry. You can't. You can try. It is so much harder. It is really, really difficult, which is why I stand with the writers over in America, because writing is not an industry that is paid well anymore. Since the financial crisis of 2008, when everything pretty much died. It's hard to put a sort of finger on why I think we're nearly at the peak of it, but I think we're really fast outstripping our ability to innovate over produce something new and exciting for an audience as massive as it's gotten.
I think you're right. It's hard to understand where we're standing in history. Like in 10 years' time, we'll look back and we'll go, well, obviously the next big thing was that Shadowrun would have a comeback, claim to fame, and that would be the main RPG that everyone's running. Yep. You're right. What's going to happen? Like, as far as I can tell, the top 3 big RPGs are Call of Cthulhu, based off a somewhat troubling lore, which has been, revitalized and people are enjoying it anew. We've got D&D, which has Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have got bad faith within the community now, and whilst they have made steps to getting better, I think a lot of people have been put off for a very long time. And obviously the things that are previous versions, D&D derivatives, we've got Pathfinder, we've now got Tales of the Valiant coming from Kobold Press, and Pathfinder 2 Remastered, which is using the new I forget which, the non-copyright license of the previous OGL, but yes, Pathfinder 2 Remastered is going, I think
I threw my hands up at the OGL word. I was just like, no, fuck this.
My brain dumped all that information after we did that episode. I was genned up for that. I was genned up for the test, and then it's gone.
I was ready for everything, and then the minute they were like, it goes back to the way it was, I just wanted to punch something. I was so mad. I was so... You make us scramble, you make us do that, you piece of... God damn it.
But you're right. Are the main staples going to be things that we enjoy and there's no way to tell. And the only allegories that we have at the moment are movies and video games and book genres. They're not quite the same.
Not really.
But I guess. But yeah, it's what we don't want is to see the things that we dislike about those industries. Like Audible basically ripping off all authors and being the conglomerate. We're seeing video game massive publishers that are doing terrible things and are treating their staff really poorly. And there are terrible things happening there in order to make all the money in the world, when they're just like, oh, but we're a tiny industry. But as you say, it's so gigantic, it would eclipse several countries put together. And obviously movies, which, have such enormous mind-blowing budgets in order to make movies that sometimes if they don't make all that profit in the first weekend, it's recorded as a loss, and they never make that thing again.
Pressure on the pressure is huge to ensure it succeeds. Now that we are at the base of this boom, we're watching it skyrocket. It's never been as popular a medium for entertainment than it has. Where we go with it and how it grows will dictate whether or not this industry becomes something incredibly exciting and really, really great to be a part of, as it presently is, I would argue, or whether it becomes as toxic as something like the video game industry or the publishing industry, or as a lot of large media entertainment companies tend to be, just not great with when it comes to track records of treating their staff equally. We do have the opportunity to try and set that now. I don't think we're doing a great job of it. because obviously a lot of the roots of the major players are based back in the 70s, and they've been working on practices that date back to then.
I think we're also stuck in not thinking about it as an industry.
Yeah,
We're
individual
thinking
products.
about it. It's individual products. We're all thinking about. I'm thinking about how great Lancer is and how everything. But I take 2 steps to the left and see is the community that's in Lancer treating RPGs the same way that they're doing for BattleTech, which is a very similar game for obviously like MechWarrior and stuff like. And we need to think broader as the industry whole. Are the writers on the projects for the things being recognized, or are they is there stuff being rewritten? Is the artwork being properly commissioned and paid for? There's so many things. I think as soon as we start thinking larger about it being an industry, and also really acknowledging the real work that actual players are doing in bringing these products to people to understand. And that is the entertainment. I think a lot of the publishers, I think, now recognize actual plays as this is part of the product.
Yes.
But I think a real recognition of that as a real tentpole within the industry is quite critical to us going forward.
Yes, massively so. Couldn't put it any better myself. Well done.
You did. I just summarized some of your points.
Disagree. You're very important to me. Please don't go forming a union against me. That would be well within your rights, and I support you.
We are pro-union, but don't make a union specifically against me.
Just me.
just this is the anti-Jess union. Really sorry. Not you, Jess.
Oh,
just that, Jess. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry for the confusion. I'm a piece of shit. But I'll just put that out there now. But thanks, big fan. Great to be recognised with this anti-me union. Cheers.
Yeah. On the whole, pro-union. Unions are big and cool. Unfortunately, they tend to be needed for things that are bad. But
Hello.
Pro-union, they're very cool. I think that's pretty much I know that was a bit more of just a general discussion about where we feel in the moment, but I think we need to acknowledge, as you pointed out, need to acknowledge where we're at so we understand how to make positive steps forward. So I'm really glad that we can have this chat.
It's really easy to enjoy a TTRPG, and it's really easy to enjoy your favorite games. It's much harder to look at the industry that they come from and go, "Ooh, there's problems here. This might not be sustainable." The thing that I really love and really enjoy and want more of, we might not be able to get more of because the thing it comes from is inherently bad in these many ways. How do we fix it? How do we make it work? And how do we make it bigger and better so that everybody can come and enjoy this thing in the future, instead of, I don't know, some people suffering so that other people can enjoy it? Ta-da!
Yeah. I mean, Ursula K. Le Guin might have some stuff to say about that specifically. But yeah, sure. Thank you, dear listener, for taking on our notes, because you need to be solving this. We've washed our hands of it now. That's it. We did the talking. This is a podcast. It's now down to you and your individual actions to change the whole of the TTRPG industry. Sign this petition, pay this money to, I don't know, there'll be a party up for it at some point. But no. Do you have any final thoughts or?
Final thoughts? Honestly, I think we've laid it all out quite nice and clearly with a healthy dose of sarcasm. The sarcasm being, no, we don't believe in whatever Sam just said.
Sarcasm, yes.
Support your local gaming industry, support the wider industry, and also pay attention to the news and take a look at the inside workings of the companies that you're buying the products from, and just double check as well to see what's going on behind the curtain, what's going on behind the pages. Be aware, more aware of the products that you are buying into before throwing your hard-earned money at any old random shite that will inevitably give the TTRPG industry a bad name. Give it more thought will always be my major take-home, realistically. I think you all deserve the best TTRPGs that are out there, and that only comes with individual research and an ability to talk about them with other people. Yay! That's it.
Yay.
How about you? Any closing remarks? Closing thoughts?
I like to think with a positive aspect. I think that there are going to be, as you say, some fundamental changes which are going to be pretty bad overall, but I think they're going to be steps towards making this industry more sustainable, more stable, and having it so more people can enjoy games that they like in ways that they can like them. I like to believe that will happen, and I will be taking active steps to make sure that happens. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Excellent. So, Jess, you discussed it earlier.
Yes.
Where can we watch you on D20 Deathmatch?
Oh yeah, you can watch me on D20 Deathmatch playing Biff T Understudy, questing time favourite and a fanatical goon. Returning as on part 2 of Vythorn's Revenge on D20 Deathmatch alongside B. Dave Walters. Should be released on the 17th of May on YouTube and 24/7 on Twitch. So you can go check that out there. You can find me in general at Dr. Bees on Twitter is where I'm most active, at Julahoop on Instagram, where I'm really not. And if you really want, you can try and find me on Facebook, but I don't. The boomers live there now. I am not there.
We don't go there, Simba.
Sam, where can we find more of your stuff?
You're already listening to At the Table, a Project Headphones production. We are Project Headphones on Instagram. I don't really go there. TikTok, I post clips from this show there. And Twitter, where I mainly retweet stuff that Lance or people are doing. And occasionally stuff that Jess has done that I'm like, more people need to understand what an insane goof Jess is. And just kind of general in education around these issues. Yes, and if you need to contact the show at all, email sam@projectheadphones.com or at thetable@projectheadphones.com. Thank you so much for listening. I know this has been quite an in-depth dive into the space as it is. He gesticulates wildly around the microphone, but thank you for bearing with us. I think it is going to be, there is going to be some change, but I'm really grateful that we've got really wonderful friends around us that we can help guide that process and play cool games about.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Bye. Thank you for listening to our show. At the Table has been a Project Headphones production, and you can see more of our work over at projectheadphones.com. I wanted to say, between us recording this and it going out, the United Paizo workers have had a tentative agreement with Paizo, and you can read more about it on their website. I have popped a link in the show notes. And if you would like to support them and their efforts, you can go over to their webpage, because they have a Redbubble, and you can buy cool things like a mug in which you can support workers and support people in an industry that we love. And do cool stuff. You can obviously donate direct to them. As we've said earlier in the show, we are pro-union. We think unions are big and cool, and people getting correct recognition for their work is really important for this industry. So please go and support them, or support like efforts within the industry if that's something you would like to do. It's something I will be doing. Anyway, to get in contact with the show, please email at thetable@projectheadphones.com. Please remember to rate, review, and share amongst your friends. It's the best way to get the show out there, and we can do bigger and better things. Our music was Captain Scurvy by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attributions 4 license. Thank you very much, and roll well.